All right. Well, I think a little bit. We touched on this a little bit, but um, one of the bigger parts of what I think causes like fear and emotions and just kind of like overall good experience in gaming is the music. So, and we all are music people. So, I
Ooh.
think that'd be a good transition is to talk about video game music and how it affects the game for you guys.
Yeah. Well, so what are you people's favorite soundtracks of all time first?
I don't know if I would like fully commit to this like a month from now or something, but I keep thinking of the soundtrack to the game Prey, which is
Ooh.
really fantastic in just so many different ways. It's by Mick Gordon, who everyone
Oh yeah.
knows his name now because he did the soundtrack to Doom,
Yeah.
but the new Doom. But I think the Prey soundtrack is has a lot of the stuff that makes Doom cool, but like I think it's way more underrated because Doom is so like in the public eye now. It's just like this really cool electronic music that can range because Prey is such a variable game. It sometimes you're running from a terrifying alien monstrosity, and sometimes you're like actually really powerful and you can get the enemies a lot better. So it has to walk this line between really tense, scary music and like really tense power fantasy music, and it's really well done.
Nice. I think if I had to pick one, probably Superliminals.
Oh.
I think the soundtrack was actually like my favorite part of Superliminal. Um, and I didn't personally really like how that game ended, but the music was like a constant in it that I really liked.
Nice.
It's very jazzy, which is probably why I like it so much.
Do you know the
Um,
Cuphead soundtrack?
no.
You might like it because it's
Ooh.
all extremely jazzy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out. um, yeah, I think that, and then of course like the Nintendo Mario Kart
Mm.
soundtrack. Those always hit. But I will. I
Nostalgia.
don't ever just like kind of put them on. You know what I mean? Like I would listen to Superliminal as like an album,
Mm.
but Mario, I don't know. I just like it bops when I play it.
Yeah.
Like I would. I've never like turned on Mario music.
Mm.
Um,
I would
yeah.
I would definitely turn on Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack, but that's
Mm.
also because of a lot of nostalgia because I played it a lot when I was little on the Wii.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm contractually obligated to say that Undertale is my favorite soundtrack. But besides that, it's probably Transistor, which is possibly my favorite game. It's also battling with Undertale. Um,
mm.
but the thing about that soundtrack is I feel like it's not very similar to any other soundtrack that I've heard.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's so integral to the aesthetic of that game because that game has such a defined aesthetic with its art and its atmosphere and its music, um, that I feel like the game would be nowhere near as good, without how unique and really cool the soundtrack is. They even have a dedicated hum button where the main character, who is a singer, if you just press the button, she will like stop and like everything will like fade out a little bit, and there will be a spotlight on her, and she'll just sing along to the soundtrack. Which,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and also the boss themes are all vocal tracks. Um, the style is, um, well, okay, so the composer is Darren Korb, and for each of the Supergiant games, which is like the best game studio that there is, he basically makes up a genre, um, to have for each game. Usually, a lot of times, it's influenced by like rock because he's a rock musician, but this one is more
Mm.
electronic, and has a lot of just like weird noise. Well, not really. It has a lot of um,
Beep
like
boop sounds.
yeah, yeah, like I don't know. It's really difficult to describe. You should just listen to it.
Yeah, everyone should listen to Transistor soundtrack. I think you touched on this a little bit, but part of what makes Transistor so good is it's so ingrained into like the story and the gameplay of the game
Mm-hmm.
because the main character is like singing along to the songs and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Do you have? I feel like you have definitely will, but I don't know about you, Nick. Have you guys like made video game music?
I've made a little bit. Will's made a lot more than me.
I was there when it happened, and it was banging. Um, yeah, so I'm in like the game club at the school. So I make game music for that. Um, yeah, I mean, I think what I find the most interesting about actually making game music is making the adaptive parts. Like, for instance, the one that for the game that Nick worked on. Actually, should Nick talk about that? That might be.
I can. So I did like Will did a lot of the tech side of things, of actually implementing it. But basically, I made sort of a basic track, and then I had a couple of other parts of the song that would fade in based on what was going on in the game. So like the further away you got from the like safest zone, it would get like a little more intense, and then if there were enemies on the screen, there would be more percussive stuff going on. And that was really fun to sort of design that, of sort of hearing, okay, if there's enemies, how would this song change if there are enemies on the screen, or if you're in more dangerous territory, that kind of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so what we did for that was, I think you probably already said, but like just had like layers, you know? And that's one approach that you can do, is you can have layers that you fade in, which I know, again, Darren Korb does a lot, especially in Pyre. There was just like every single instrument was its own stem and would get like faded in and out as people were talking. But you can also do like transitions that are based on stuff in the game, which is something that I'm working on now. I'm working on a game that's very similar to the one that Nick and I made. In fact, it's run by the same guy.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing for that one is that I have like a calm loop, and every 2 measures it's going to check if it should switch to the battle loop, and then it will like play a little transition and then go into the battle loop, and then it will keep checking there as well if it should go back to the calm loop, and then it will play a little transition and go back to the calm loop. And I think that stuff like that is the most interesting part for me, just because I think that's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
the track that I made for the game that Nick worked on, what I did for it is I just made the whole track, and then I stuck it into Logic, and I just like warped everything around. I like chopped it up and added distortion on like certain parts, etc. And then I would just crossfade between the two when there are enemies on the screen. So it would sort of glitch out and get weird as soon as an enemy came onto the screen, and then it would just go back to normal as soon as you kill everything. So yeah.
Right. Do you have like a certain way you go about like starting making music for a game, or like what's your thought process?
Well, first I just start with, what is the music for? It's a lot different from just writing music to be listened to, I feel like, because yeah, there's like a certain specific thing that you want to communicate.
There's like an immersive aspect.
Yeah. So like right now I'm working on a theme for a forest, but I don't know if it's like foresty enough. So I need to start thinking about like what effects can I add, etc., to make it seem more like a forest.
Just put a marimba in it, then you're good.
That's true. Well, it's not really like a jungle. It's like a haunted forest,
Oh, okay.
It's like a 16-bit like sample soundtrack, if you guys know what that is. Sort of like older games, but after 8-bit, where they would just take like samples of very small sounds and then use them to make longer sounds by just sticking them in a sampler, and that's basically what Undertale did, except he had access to modern technology that could make it better than just that. But yeah.
Yeah, basically like Super Nintendo era Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, that kind of thing.
Yeah.